I am the prophet, and truth is above all else. It is above all else, and today let's talk about it. I have watched a very interesting debate, or a very boring and weird debate, depending on who you ask, between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris. It lasted more than 2 hours, and it was, in the eyes of many, complete nonsense. Jordan Peterson was arguing a very interesting point. He said that all truth is relative. So, for example, if you take a tribe, imagine a tribe 30,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, and in that tribe there is a man who wakes up one night and says that he has dreams of a coming apocalypse, and they should move out, they should move to another place. And this doesn't happen just in one tribe, it happens in many. So the story spreads in the region and everybody knows. From the dozens of tribes who live there, only one decide to heed this madman, and they leave. A week later, they see plumes of smoke and fire in the sky, and they realize that something has happened. Of course, we would know that it was a volcano, but for them, it was the wrath of some god or some spirit. Was this person speaking truth? Should you listen to this guy? Jordan Peterson made the argument that yes, that he was saying the truth. And you could take this argument and multiply it again and again. This tribe goes to another region. Again, something happens and everyone there has these dreams. And knowing that what happened the last time, the tribe moves on. Again, dozens of tribes are wiped out, but one survives. And this happens 5 times, 10 times. We could say, of course, from our modern understanding, that there is no way for someone to predict a volcanic eruption. However, that is the point. It is a very nuanced point. That is why I'm repeating myself. That is the point, that as far as these people are concerned, that guy who has these weird dreams speaks the truth. But from our perspective, it's obviously just chance. Sam Harris didn't agree with this. In Sam Harris's view, truth is absolute. So no matter how many times that happens, the people in this tribe should be skeptical, or at least they should think about it every time. They should debate it every time. They shouldn't take it for granted that when dreams come, bad stuff happens. And this has profound implications, these 2 ways of looking at truth. For Peterson, it's all about perspective. It's all about the observer, the person who sees the truth and interprets the truth. For Sam Harris, it is an absolute. It doesn't matter who is the one who sees, who perceives. Something is either true or it's not. And this is a really interesting debate, because Jordan Peterson seems obviously wrong at first glance. But is he? I think we should look into it a little bit. He was criticized a lot for trying to redefine truth. And yet, people miss the point that Sam Harris is the one who tries to redefine truth. Because for the past 100,000 years, million years, since humans first began to talk to each other and think, his version of truth was always relevant. There was never this idea in humanity that truth is something completely external. Now why? Because you had things like spirits, like gods, like supernatural beings. So in that way of thinking, it doesn't make sense for truth to be completely external. How can there be a god, a human, and truth somewhere out there, outside of the supernatural? That didn't make sense. So truth was always under the supernatural. So the things that you knew, the things that you believed, were always conditional on some sort of superior being. A medieval Christian understood that sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes winter is harsh, sometimes it doesn't. Things change. Things move on, things die, things are born. Rivers change path. Many natural phenomena exist in this world. But these powers, these causes, effects, come from a single cause, and that is God. So for you to really understand and know for certain, the certain part, that's the problem, why something happens and how something happens, it is impossible. Because in order for you to know that, you would need to be God or a God. Sam Harris didn't really understand the point Peterson was making. At least that is my conception. He thought, like many of us do, sadly, that his view is obviously correct. That truth is obviously outside of you, because there is obviously no God, and yes, without God, maybe his point stands. But could Peterson be right if there is no God? Do you need a supernatural being in order to have Peterson's conceptions of truth? Let's look at it this way. Imagine the same person. We now are 100,000 years more advanced than that person. We now make the same claims about truth. We say, for example, that 2 plus 2 equals 4. I believe this, you believe this. Every person on this planet who doesn't have some sort of mental issues understand this very simple concept. The point Sam Harris is making is that this is an evident truth and this is eternally true. But will this be true in 100 years? Will this be true in 1,000 years? The answer is probably, but it is not 100%. That is the mistake Sam Harris is making. And this is a weird mistake to make, because we cannot imagine how 2 plus 2 equals 4 could not be true a century from now. But at the same time, people 100,000 years in the past could not imagine how these weird dreams could be just random. So you must admit to the limits of knowledge, to your limits and our limits as humans, as organisms, as thinking beings, that we may never know certainty. You can go back into the past and look at millions, probably, of beliefs that were seen as absolutely true, that were so obvious that people never really thought about it. People never really thought about it, for example, that the world was round. Maybe in the last 2,000 years, 3,000 years, 5,000 years, I do not know who figured out the first time. But before that, for 99% of our human history, the truth that the world is flat was as obvious to people as the truth that 2 plus 2 equals 4. So can we be wrong? it's necessary to view ourselves as something better than in the past. It's necessary to think that now we are so damn great. In the past we were idiots, but now we are just amazing. And now we cannot be wrong. But this is a very naive way of looking at things. This puts humans in the middle of everything. While a more nuanced and surely more depressing view is that we do not know. We cannot know. Maybe this truth of 2 plus 2 will last 100 years. But what about when our species is 1,000 times more advanced, 1,000,000 times more advanced? What if when we build a brain the size of a football stadium, the size of a whole city, the size of a planet, the size of the sun, at what point will this consciousness, brain, intelligence, whatever you want to call it, look back to our most obvious notions of mathematics and say that we were wrong? We do not know, and we cannot know, and this is really depressing. Peterson came out as someone who is humble, who understands the limits of knowledge and the limits of human beings, while Sam Harris did something very weird, something that he didn't want to do. He essentially took God out of the equation and he put mankind instead. So the knowledge that we have now is somehow infinite. It's not. We have thought this many times in the past, and we were proven wrong. What can we do then? We must accept. It's hard to do it, but we must accept that certainty is impossible. You can be 99% sure. You can add a dozen nines or even 1,000,000 nines, but you will never get to 100. That is very scary to the modern scientific mind that works in certainties. What you as an average person should take out of this is the notion of humility. It is important to be humble. We do not know what the future will bring. We do not know how the generations to come will look back at us, our science, our morality, our accomplishments. We cannot know. Maybe 1,000 years from now we will be seen as savages. Maybe 1,000,000 years from now we will be seen as insignificant. We cannot know. We must be humble and we must do what we can. Basically, we must try our best and hope for the best, knowing that we will never ever be certain of anything. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe, and sorry for the bad quality. I am really sick and I really tried to not cough during the entire video, and it was a challenge. And yes, that was my nose. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.